Ooh.
You got a dog coming.
Yeah. Okay. What was I going to do? Hello, Cheryl.
Hello.
I'm glad people are logging on early. I'm still trying to figure things out. So let me ask you a question real quick. When you came on and when you was at the waiting room before I admitted you, did it say on there in description, if we are not familiar with you, you will not be admitted to the event, but you can view it live on?
I don't know. It didn't, I wasn't paying attention. I was watching TV. I got on at like, I thought this started at 6:30. So I got on a little after 6.
Oh, no, that's,
And it was just said, waiting for host to start meeting.
oh,
And then I started watching BattleBots. So
yeah, apparently a lot of people thought it was 6:30, but it's 7.
I know, I
That's
don't know why I
fine.
had it
That's
6:30.
fine. That gives me plenty of time to get everything straightened up.
Fair enough.
I want to make sure I've got everything ready for them. All right. Okay, that doesn't tell me what I wanted it to, but that's okay. I'll just cancel out and leave the meeting because I don't need to be in there twice. So I'm trying to get it set up where that I can sit here and instead of having to look down at my pages to read through everything, I can look straight at my screen here at Ernest, because I'm at Ernest's house. Because he's got a better connection. So I'm trying to get it where I can look at the screen instead of looking down all the time. And then also a little bit earlier before it starts, I want to put up a picture, go ahead and get it started live on Facebook so people can start sharing it. But I'll do that in just a few minutes. How are you, Miss Tammie? Got you, you're muted.
I am trying to find the one candidate that's running for that congressional seat that didn't turn in an email or telephone number to the Secretary of State. I've been on Facebook, I've called Tarrant County and everything. I can't find him. I can't find an email or a telephone number for him.
You can only try them if they don't.
And he's a realtor. You know, that's what I don't understand. Most realtors have their name out everywhere.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yes. Mr. Albert, will you do me a favor? And I don't know who.
No,
Who's the admin for y'all's, the Bosque Democratic Club on Facebook?
I refer everyone to our.
Okay, so my question is, because when I go live on Facebook, I'm trying to get everybody, I'm going to go on live early enough that everybody that's on here can share it on their Facebook pages. So if when I do that, I'll let you know. Then if you can share that live on your Bosque Democratic Club's page or on your personal page or however you can do it. But I sent Mary Burke a message, but she said her computer crashed and she will not be able to attend, having to get a new computer. So when I go live, I'll let you know. So while I've got y'all here, let me just, I'm trying to figure out.
I let Ivina.
You'll let Ivina know? Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. It came up on my screen that I had bad connection, so it may be going in and out. To answer your question, I refer everyone to Ivina because she has the most techie skills to handle everything.
Okay,
Because I think that I'm an admin too, but I'm not smart enough to know how to do all that stuff. So I
Well, if you-
default to her.
if you're an admin, then once you go to it on the SDE 22 Facebook page and hit share.
Yeah,
then it will
Ivina.
Send her a message.
Yes. Ivina is the one.
Are you ready for us to do that?
No, not yet, not yet. It's still a little bit early. I was trying to figure out different ways to do stuff, but I was going to go on live on Facebook even before we started and put up a photo with saying that the meeting will start at 7 o'clock, but I think I
Oh,
just didn't have people
I
talking.
saw that and I thought, oh, I thought we were starting at 6:30.
No, it's 7 to 9.
Well, see, I had it down at 6:30 as well. I have it written on my calendar at 7.
Yeah, it's 6. It starts at 7, but I'm glad that you're here. That way you're all logged in and ready to go.
The message you sent me today said she was going to start at 6:45. See, because you're
Thom, are you frozen or am I frozen?
I'm not frozen. I think it's just him.
Okay. Albert, you may want to drop your video. Might speed it up some.
I muted myself because I was getting a lot of reverb from him.
Are you there, Albert? Okay, well, now you're muted. So unmute yourself.
thinking it's okay. Now we're good.
I hear you, but you're lagging quite a bit. Maybe because of the video.
Don't say anything. I'll be here.
I'm not catching any of that.
It says your internet connection is unstable.
Yeah. So you'll probably do better if you turn your video off, but leave your audio on.
Yeah. Well, it says it tells me that I'm unstable, but I've known that for a while.
If you turn your video off, it will help the bandwidth.
Okay. Let's see if I'm smart enough to do that. Stop video.
Yeah,
There you go.
Okay.
that might help.
Yeah. But it's just bad here. It's just bad.
It is at my house too. That's why I come into Hillsborough to Ernest's house when I'm doing something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds
Sometimes
better though.
I'm
Albert.
lucky, sometimes I'm not.
Yeah.
It sounds better, Albert. I don't hear any lag.
Yeah. Well, it looks better too because there's no photo.
You're muted, Tammie.
I had at least a 30-minute conversation with my state rep about improving the bandwidth in Texas. And he was telling me all these excuses because they would have to go up on our taxes, our tax for your phone service. And the Texas legislature last session didn't want to go up as much as they were told they would have to go up to get that for everyone. I'm telling you, 30 minutes talking to Doc Anderson is punishment.
Yes, I imagine it is.
But now during election time, that will be one of their talking points. They're going to improve, they're going to get that for everyone during election time.
Right.
And rule know,
Okay, well, while we are sitting here doing this, I am going to put some links into the chat room while we've got this open. Because
So,
Mr.
Thom,
Jaworski.
did you decide that you were going to do a quick intro, or did you want me to start it? You're going to do the quick intro, right?
I've got an introduction for Joe, yes.
Okay.
Yes. And speaking of Joe, there he is.
Yeah. Hey,
Hey.
Thom, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, Joe. How are you?
Awesome. And there's Cheryl and Tammie and Albert. Awesome.
Yeah,
I
we
love
have
it
more
how-
coming. Of course, we still got a few minutes, but while we're waiting,
Yeah.
I'm going to let you talk to Cheryl and Tammie while I put all the links and stuff in the chat room that we need there and
Good.
get you ready to go live on Facebook. And
Oh, I'm just so pleased. And where is everyone today? Thom, I know, aren't you, where are you? You're not in, are you in Johnson County?
no, sir, I'm in Hill County.
Hill County, that's right. And
Yes.
how about y'all, Cheryl?
Waco.
Nice. My grandfather's old stomping ground.
Tammie, you're muted.
Tammie's in Waco as well.
Fabulous.
And Albert is in Bosque County.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
So I thought we'd start off. Thom's going to start with an introduction. I'm gonna build on that, and then I'm gonna start off with the top 5 priorities that are on your website. I thought I'd just give you free reign to start with that because it was pretty good and comprehensive. And
Sure.
then I've got 2.5 pages of questions that I know you've seen before.
Right.
And I've been to a couple of others with women Democrats, women of.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Demo-
Wow, Dems.
Yeah, so
That was great.
I fed off some of those, stole some of their questions. I have some of my questions of my own, so we should be good. This is Thom. This runs an hour.
An hour and a half, whatever you need
Okay.
to do. Joe, if that's too many questions for you, you get tired of questions, let Cheryl know, let me know.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah,
you wanna do.
I'll just like, no, I can handle it. It's good. I mean, as long as there's people that are interested, this is a chance. What a great opportunity. I mean, otherwise we'd be driving around in a little white truck, with a gas card, trying to get to as many counties as possible. But during this time of COVID, as tragic as it is, I think we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And this Zoom really allows for an exchange of information, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Well,
how I'm doing my business now,
Yeah.
Cheryl.
I bought Zoom stock back in February, last
Smart.
February,
I should've.
2020.
That would have been a good idea.
Yeah.
That would have been a real good idea.
Well, when your grandmother starts using something, it's time to buy it.
So tell me so we've got a Zoom link, but it's on Facebook going out to obviously a lot more people.
Yes, I'm putting it in the chat room right now. So anybody that comes on, if they want to share that with their friends and stuff, they can do that. But it's going to go live on the SD22 Texas Democrats, and then it'll go live on the Hill County Democrats, and then it'll go live on my page. And then I talked to a lady from your campaign, Callie Brown.
Yep.
Today, and she's going to make sure that when I go live, that she will go live on yours.
Okay.
And that's the same thing for all the county chairs throughout SD22 to make sure they go live. They share it so that it's out there. So I'm
This is great.
trying to get this all in here while I can. Because I sure don't want to be.
Yeah. Cheryl,
Yes.
Okay, I stepped out of the room because I go away and I come back and I went away and I was in the other room and I heard my name mentioned. Was there something that
Oh.
you were?
No, I was just telling them you were in Bosque County.
Oh, okay. All right. Hopefully I will stay with you because, I've already been dropped 3 times since we've been sitting here.
Uh-oh.
So I don't know. Maybe it's the winds that are blowing in from the south is blowing my bandwidth, someplace, and hopefully I can stay with you.
Okay.
So I haven't left you. It's not my fault.
Okay. I understand. I'm in the city limits of Waco and I can't get broadband.
Oh, it's, there are days when it's great here. And then there's times, like today when it doesn't always happen the way that you want it to. And like Mary Linda, she lives so far out in the country there, outside, in Bosque County going toward Cranswell's Gap that, she's just lucky if she's got cell phone connection.
Yeah, right. And that's one of those deals, broadband access.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't really think of Waco as rural, but I mean, if you can't get reasonable, broadband in Waco, come on.
Yeah. I'm in the city limits. Can't pull it off.
I mean, I'll tell you, that was the creepiest thing about that electric grid failure. Not only was it cold, not only did the electricity shut off, which means the heat shut off, but the cell towers went dead. And, there was just like no way to communicate with people. And I mean, I'm used to that in Galveston after, those hurricanes every 25 years. But man, this was like statewide.
Yeah. Actually, that did, what we end up using is Verizon hotspots instead of broadband because we don't have that. So we've got just a whole bunch of hotspots and we use them all up. They only have 15 gigs through
Wow.
each month. And so you just stack them up and run through them through the month. But they stayed up through the whole drama of the big freeze.
Sure.
And it's so strange here in Meridian. Okay. My sister and I live less than half a mile apart. Okay. I never lost electricity during, for this time. And she was without power for 3 days.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hey, just to let you know real quick, I am fixing to go live on Facebook. So everything you say from this point will be live on Facebook, and then I'll start recording the meeting itself at 7 o'clock.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah, McLennan County was pretty lucky, but we'd had that big freeze and snowstorm in January, so they cleaned up all of our trees and electrical lines, and we didn't have the rolling blackouts like Austin and Houston did.
right.
We still lost power, but it was off and on.
And I'm not just real sure, Cheryl, I'm not real sure if Texas needs to have their own power system. I think a lot of that could have been avoided if we'd have been able to tie in with someone, with the rest of the world, the rest of the states.
Inherently, it's not bad to have our own. There's some
Mhm.
advantages.
Mhm.
The problem is having one that's unregulated and unaccountable.
Right.
That's
Exactly.
the bad part about it.
Yeah, but we have so much unaccountability when we start talking about the political arena.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, that's
as of late.
that's another story and another Zoom call. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
I like accountability. I've taught school for 28 years, and I've been held accountable every year that I taught. And so I do not understand why others feel that they don't have to be held accountable. But once again, Cheryl, as you say, that is another topic for another another time. I will try to be nice.
Did you guys see Ken Paxton is threatening to sue Austin? Oh,
Every day.
Yes.
yeah, every
Make sure-
day. Yeah. Yeah.
Every
It's like,
day it's somebody
Abilene,
new
you're
to-
next. He ought to just do it alphabetically,
Man's not
Ooh.
right.
I know. Sue, Sue, Sue. That's what we ought to do, is call him a boy named Sue.
Mm.
Wow. Our finest at work.
Yeah, exactly.
I told
Well-
someone the other day that I will not speak ugly about those folks from Arkansas anymore.
Yeah, right. They're looking good.
They are looking real good compared to us. And
I know. I mean, look, I think very well of our state, and I'm very proud of being a Texan. And I just felt humiliated on the national stage. Our leaders were making fun of California and refusing to support Hurricane Sandy efforts. And then, we're oh, please, federal government help us, which of course they should, but, our tax dollars pay for it. But it's just so hypocritical.
I was so embarrassed by all the Texas flags on January 6th out in front of the Capitol.
Ooh,
That was just heartbreaking.
Okay,
we were.
Cheryl, Tammie, somebody, will y'all go on to, I guess, the Hill County Democrats page and see if we are streaming live, because I am not seeing it, but it tells me we are.
Tammie, it says recording live on Facebook on here. Tammie, can you check?
I'm checking. Oh,
But not because I put it on, shit, hang on.
Hill County Democrats, it's not on there.
Okay,
It's got your map of the precinct 1 tendered his resignation.
okay, give me just a minute here.
No, it's not.
He's working on it, Tammie.
Okay. I'm trying to get these dates up in the chat. Last day to receive ballot by mail.
Next.
Thom, do you need me to give Ivina a call to see if if she's available, where she can join us, and maybe she can do the same thing for Bosque County?
Yes, that'd be great.
All right.
Let's try this again. That's why I always try to get on here a little bit earlier so I can start getting things.
Oh, I'm seeing a lot of people now. Linda Brown, Miss Carla Brady, Dr. Carla Brady.
Hello, everyone. I'm coming in from
Howdy.
another meeting.
Okay, and it looks like we are now live on Facebook. And let me get this over to the SD22. So it is on the SD22 Texas Democrats, and it's on the Hill County Democrats page to go live.
Ivina, this is Albert Hunter. I was calling to see if you might be at home available to join a Zoom meeting that's going on about now. Then maybe you could share it on our Facebook page live.
Okay, and then I've just pasted in the chat room, the Facebook page, so anybody can just take that link and start sharing it across theirs. It should do that. Let me verify that just to be sure. Okay, I believe that has it. Okay, Michael Loomis, submit. Okay, well, we are still waiting for Chairman Hinojosa to join in with us here. Dr. Brailey, how's things going in your neck of the woods? You're on mute.
Oh, in my neck of the woods, you know, I have a lot of work to do. My home was flooded.
Oh, no.
with the freeze and ceiling collapsed. So lots of work being done. I've had to move out for the next 4 to 6 weeks. So yeah, we're working like other Texans unnecessarily because we had some pretty bad leadership.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, Carla, I'm so sorry to hear that. That is awful. How's your experience with the insurance company going right now?
Oh, so far, I cannot complain. I have State Farm. I'm waiting
Right.
for them to finalize, you know, their estimate, their report. So I'll know that better once you receive that, then you know what you're really dealing with. So right now I feel good. They've been very, they've communicated very well. So we'll see. Thanks for
Okay.
asking.
Oh, absolutely. I'm so sorry. We have some burst pipes under our house in Galveston, but we had turned the water off before the winter storm. But once we fire it back up, it'll be interesting to see if we have any leaks inside.
I know that's scary, isn't it?
I mean, you don't know. It's, unless you have like an X-ray machine.
Well, Michael Loomis, how are you today?
I'm good. How you been, Thom?
I'm doing real well. Thank you.
Good, good. Did you get any of that damage?
No, didn't have much at all. No, I was very
I'm
happy.
still without water.
Oh my God.
Oh my goodness.
Oh no.
Yeah, contractors aren't been doing well. The insurance isn't doing well. FEMA, I'm gonna get on with that gentleman that is a congressperson from up in Arlington area. He is having FEMA, the district representative, on tomorrow for a phone conference. So I'm gonna get on there.
Right.
Okay. Miss Mary Mann, I see you on. How are you?
I'm doing just wonderfully well today, Thom. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I'm really excited to do this event tonight. We still got a few minutes before we get started and still waiting on Chairman Hinojosa to join us. But,
Thom, I
so
need to
we'll
check
start.
can you hear me, Thom? I need to check my audio.
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. I
Sound
punched
good.
a button on my headphone set. Sometimes that turns me off.
Yes. Linda Brown, our Johnson County Chair. Where'd your picture go, Linda?
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to
Oh.
turn it off. I was gonna ask Michael, you talk about Chris Turner? When you said
No,
the
in
congressman.
US Congress, what is his name? African-American gentleman.
Colin
Oh,
Allred.
Allred. Yeah,
Yeah.
Colin Allred.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's gonna have FEMA and the SBA people on the phone tomorrow. And so I registered for that, and hopefully I'll get to ask them, well, when's my loan coming through? So I can pay contractors.
Yes, Linda, Joseph, I don't know if you've met Linda Brown. She's our county chair for Johnson County, the county that sponsoring this evening.
yeah.
Linda Brown, thank you. Thank you, Linda. Hello.
You're more than welcome.
And Michael Loomis is with the Johnson County Democratic Party as well.
I see
Nice. Hey, Michael.
Bill Hammonds is on from
Yep,
Johnson
there's Bill.
County.
And Linda's a good one.
You bet.
I love it.
There's Miss Rocha.
Oh, she's Johnson County too. J Johnson County.
I'm seeing people from the state party staff on. Hannah Robeck, the interim chief of staff,
All right.
executive director, and Bill Brannon, I saw him.
I saw him a minute ago too.
Kelly Blackburn, the county chair from Ellis County, she's on.
And here comes Gilberto Hinojosa. So as soon as he gets in and gets his audio and everything going, then we'll go ahead and get started. Like I said, we are live on Facebook. So everybody, if you get a chance, please go over there and share the link onto your social medias. It is on the SD22 Democratic page and also the Hill County Democratic page and also on my page. So please make sure that you are sharing this if y'all would, please. Chairman Hinojosa, I see you. Yeah, you are. Unmute yourself. There you go. How are you, Chairman? Can't hear you.
There he is.
All right. So while he's doing that right there, so anybody tonight, if you are not one of the guest speakers or you are not the candidate or the moderator, please make sure you are on mute so we do not have any background noise. A lot of times we get a reverb that comes in. So where'd the chairman go?
You want to get it figured out.
Here he comes back. So while we're doing this, Miss Kelly Blackburn, you see there, she is the county chair for Ellis County. Mr. Jaworski there.
Kelly, how are you?
Great. How are you doing this evening?
Very well. Thank you so much.
Good. Good evening, Chairman.
Can you hear me now?
There he is.
Yes, yes, we can hear you now.
You can?
Yes. Yes, sir.
I have a little message. It says that there's some problems with my Zoom, but if you can hear me, then I'm not going to shift over to my iPhone. So we're
No, we can hear you now and video looks good. So, and now that you are with us and Dr. Carla Brady and Tammie Hartgroves and our moderator and the candidate is here, we're going to go ahead and get started. So I want to say good evening, everyone, as we are delighted to see you joining us tonight. We hope you and your families are staying safe and well throughout the pandemic and the winter storm. This evening is being hosted by the Johnson County Democratic Party and your SD22 SEDC committee members. I would like to ask everyone to make sure your mic is on mute to ensure no interruptions with our speakers. This town hall is being streamed live on Facebook. Please share the live stream on your social media outlets. I have placed a link for the live stream in the chat section of the Zoom here. And I've also placed a link for Joe's webpage and donation page in the chat section as well. I am Thom Hanson, your Senate District 22 SDEC committee man and the Hill County Democratic Chair and the MC for the evening. We have a great lineup for tonight. Our guest of honor, Joe Jaworski, candidate for Texas State Attorney General. We have the Honorable Gilberto Hinojosa, that is our state party chair. We have Dr. Carla Brady, the vice chair for the state party. And the Honorable Tammie Hartgroves, she is the SD22 SDEC committee woman. And we have our moderator, Cheryl Foster. So we're going to start our meeting off tonight. Our first speaker this evening was born in the Rio Grande Valley. He attended public schools and graduated from Pan American University and Georgetown University Law Center. In his public life, he has served as a county judge of law judge, a district judge, an appellate judge, and Cameron County judge. As a political leader, he has served in Cameron County Democratic Party Chair, a member of the Democratic National Committee, and on the Executive Committee of the DNC. In 2012, he was elected chair of the Texas Democratic Party and still holds the chair today. Under his leadership, the Texas Democratic Party has made great advancement in field organization, fundraising, digital communications, press communications, candidate recruitment, and innovative uses of data and metrics. The Texas Democratic Party is recognized as one of the premier state parties, and Texas is recognized as the nation's largest battleground state. It is with great honor to introduce my friend and our leader, Chairman Gilberto Hinojosa.
Thank you, Thom, and thank everyone for being here. I want to especially thank Thom for putting these events together. He does it quite often all over the state of Texas, and this is the kind of activism that the Democratic Party needs to continue to have, so that we can have an opportunity to have Democrats all across the state hear not only from the people who are working in the state party to help elect Democrats, but our candidates. And we are very fortunate, unlike the opposite party or the other party, to have great candidates on a regular basis. And I'm going to just briefly talk about Mayor Jaworski in just a second. But let's just briefly talk about where we're at in Texas. The state of Texas is the poster boy or poster girl, however you want to put it, for incompetent, corrupt, and downright mean leadership, statewide leadership in the nation. It starts with the governor of the state of Texas. It continues with the lieutenant governor of the state of Texas. But the star of corruption and incompetence and meanness is a guy that holds the office of Attorney General of the state of Texas, a man who, since he took office, has succeeded in not only harming people on a regular basis all across the state of Texas, but getting himself indicted for a first-degree felony, getting himself investigated by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and taking actions that have not been designed to help the people of the state of Texas, but rather to help his political agenda and the agenda of the right wing of the Republican Party, and more importantly, to help his friends who take care of his friends, particularly his lady friend in the city of Austin. This is an attorney general that recently came under investigation for helping a developer in Austin go after a foundation that has been helping people in all over the state of Texas, including in the Rio Grande Valley of Texas, and has used the resources of the Attorney General's office to try to minimize the amount of money that this foundation was entitled to receive in this dispute between them and this developer. When the developer hired his friend, he proceeded to do all of these things, including hiring a lawyer to investigate federal agencies in the state of Texas that were investigating this person without consulting anybody. And his entire command staff left and filed an affidavit and a complaint with the U.S. Attorney's Office, hence the FBI investigation, which would probably result in this indictment. We just saw in the news this week that he started an investigation against Twitter because Twitter cut off his mentor, Donald Trump, rightfully so, not rightfully so the investigation, but rightfully so cutting him off from all the terrible things that he did, including inciting a riot in the Capitol of the United States, this most sacred institution. This is a man that every time our Democratic mayors and Democratic county judges try to implement protections for the public from this COVID-19 pandemic, have jumped in there to prevent them from doing that. This is a man that filed a lawsuit against the federal government check this out, that filed a lawsuit against the federal government so that they could declare unconstitutional the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, and take millions of Texans and millions of Americans off the protections for their families in terms of health care that the Affordable Care Act offers them. This is a man that has filed lawsuits along with the Attorney General before him, Mr. Abbott, to ensure that young students who came into this country without any decision by them, who find themselves in this country and who are in every sense of the word Americans, to deprive them of the protections that DACA provided them with. And I can go on and on and on about Mr. Paxton, but he is a corrupt, evil, mean, and incompetent Attorney General, and it's high time we get rid of him. He has acted as the wingman for the incompetent governor that the state of Texas has, and we just saw his incompetence in a way that was just incredible by how he handled not just the pandemic from the very beginning, ignoring it, not taking it seriously, and taking actions that were not designed to help the citizens, but to hurt them. And then finally lifting up all the restrictions right when we're in the middle of trying to get to a point where we're giving people the vaccinations that'll provide herd immunity in the state of Texas and once and for all get rid of this pandemic. He's jumped the gun against the advice of his own advisors, against the advice of the CDC and every expert in the country. And what he did with respect to the power shortages, the power blackouts and the water shortages a few weeks ago, in handling that crisis was also not just incompetent, but just completely callous in his understanding of the needs of Texans. And he put us in this situation. So, I mean, I can go on for a long time, but this is not about what I'm saying. This is about hearing from a great man who's running for Attorney General, Mayor Joe Jaworski, who's been an outstanding public servant, a great Democrat, someone who has worked his entire life to help people and has done an outstanding job as an attorney. He runs circles around any of those Republicans that have ever served as Attorney General, particularly the guy that's there and who will make a great Attorney General when he is elected to that office in November of 2022. So I'm glad to be here with him. The party cannot endorse any candidates, but I can always tell you that Joe Jaworski is a great man, a great American, a great Texan, and a great Democrat.
Mr. Chairman, thank you so much.
Thank you, Chairman Hinojosa. As always, we're always happy to hear from you and listen to you. You're a true inspiration to us all. Our next speaker is Dr. Carla Brady. She is an outstanding visionary and innovator. Dr. Brailey has played a pivotal role in establishing the framework and foundation for long-term success in educational institutions, nonprofit organizations, and government agencies. She is a renowned social justice and women's advocate. She is a political strategist, lifelong researcher, and for the past 10 years has served as an assistant professor of sociology at Texas Southern University. Her commitment to ongoing learning and professional development is reflected in Dr. Brailey's well-rounded education and academic training. She holds a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from Texas State University and several degrees from Howard University, a master's degree in counseling psychology, and a certificate in women's studies, a master's of divinity, and a doctor of philosophy in sociology. She is a true public service leader who currently enjoys serving as the vice chair of the Texas Democratic Party. Dr. Brailey is a champion of excellence and is known for challenging the status quo, asking the hard questions, to seek truth and advocate intentionally and unapologetically for justice. It is with great pleasure to introduce a truly great and wonderful leader and our friend, Dr. Carla Brady.
Thanks so much, Thom and Tammie, all of you all that do
the work all year long. You know, we have to do this 365 days of the year. And when you're tired, that means you have to go and find some volunteers and some interns that can keep us going. I will not be before you very long because our chairman has spoken. Hi, hello, Gilberto. So good to see everyone on this call. And again, thank you for the work that you continue to do. We will be going blue, so we have to, we have to get ready and keep it going. These days, when I turn on the national news, I feel so much better. I feel as if we have a president that is now hearing our voice. We have a president that is now putting people first. Unfortunately, I can't say the same for our state news, which is supported by a restrictive agenda for profit politics and not for the people of Texas. Many of the decisions made related to the pandemic, specifically related to COVID-19, and the latest travesty of the winter storm did not allow for choice, acceptance, or inclusion. Some people are still without water today based on bad decision-making at the state capitol. I see bigotry and unfortunately some of the most hateful actions in my lifetime. I feel most proud to be a Democrat. Our agenda is unapologetic about serving not only the people that vote for us, but we understand that the service that we do as leaders is to provide for all people, all Texans at all times. I'm proud that we're a party that doesn't focus on tearing people down, but on lifting them up. I'm proud of our elected officials and our grassroots activists. I'm proud of our Senate district leaders. And I'm also proud of all those who continue to remain consistent about their vote and bringing others to vote with them so that we can ensure that everyone has a fair shot. I'm most proud to be the vice chair of the Texas Democratic Party and to share with our chairman, along with all of our leaders, officers, and our staff. We know that we have lots of work to do. While we have done very well in the past years, we celebrate those, but we also know that we have work to do on the ground. We know that we cannot move forward unless we have collaborations, unless we have coalitions, unless we have a strong ground game. And that's what we intend to do. It's the results of decades that we have now been able to align ourselves across various regions of our state. We know each other a little better. We're willing to fight together and we're willing to champion causes. More so than anything, we're willing to identify and recruit and support candidates that are putting their livelihood on hold, so to speak, so that they can serve our community and serve our community well. Like Gilberto, I would say, our chairman, we are here to support our candidates. And we also believe that to win Texas, we have to win locally, precinct by precinct, which means that we have to not only support our statewide candidates, but we also support those locally. And so we want to say thank you. Thank you, Joe, for running. Thank you for getting in the race. Thank you for believing in us that we can do what we need to do as Democrats in order to serve Texans. As our chairman said, we can't get in and go one way or the other in terms of primaries. However, you're out there early and you have made the commitment, and I'm sure along with your family, to get out there. You can't win if you're not in the game. So thank you, Joe, for being in the game and running.
Thank you so much, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Brailey. We are always happy to hear from you, and you've never let me down yet. You're just such a great speaker. I want to go on with our next speaker. Is a lifelong Democratic activist, the past president of the Texas Democratic Women, past president of the Texas Democratic Women of Central Texas, and the current treasurer. She serves as our Senate District 22 Committeewoman of the State Democratic Executive Committee since she was first elected in 2016. It is with great pleasure to introduce my partner on the SDEC, a Democratic leader and a friend to us all, the Honorable Tammie Hartgroves.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming to our Zoom. This is the most convenient way and the most safest way we have to interact with our Senate district during this pandemic. As a retired nurse practitioner, I will say that I was astonished by our governor going 100% opening and relaxing the mask mandate. I am fully vaccinated, but I will still wear a mask. There are too many people out there that are not wearing a mask. And this evening on MSNBC, I heard that Texas is down towards the bottom of the 50 states on the percentage of people that have received the vaccination, either the first shot or the all the shots. So, it's concerning. So I would ask you to continue to keep yourself safe, to distance, to wear your mask, use good hand washing. And I have put on some dates in the chat because we have an election coming up May the 1st for your municipal and some of your county offices. But we also have a congressional seat election up. The 3 counties in our Senate district that this seat covers are Ellis, Navarro, and the little part of Tarrant County that has Arlington and Mansfield in it. We have 10 Democratic candidates, and you will start to see we will have a Meet the Candidates Zoom coming up to meet with them. The last 2 elections, the Democratic candidates have gotten within 10 points of the Republican challenger. We need to do better. So if any of these candidates call you on you to help them with door knocking or with making phone calls, please help them out. Like I said, 10 candidates, we can't endorse anyone yet, but be willing to help them when that call comes. We as Democrats like to knock doors. We like to do face-to-face encounters. We could not do that in the 2020 elections. We were prohibited by the pandemic, and some of the campaigns didn't want us to take the risk of going door to door. And we have taken some knocks for that. But I would say as long as you're 6 feet apart from them and wearing your mask, that you could still knock doors. Like I said, the dates are in the chat. Friday, this coming Friday, is the last day to file bills for this legislative session. Thom is on the legislative committee of the SDC. He is sending out updates every day, maybe more than once a day. And I would encourage you to email, call, write, whatever you want to let your legislator know how you feel about these issues. And also, once they go into committees and get assigned, you can watch those committees on your laptop or your PC. I thank you for being with us. I look forward to hearing from our candidate for Attorney General, Joe Jaworski. I was in high school during Watergate, so I remember his granddaddy, Leon Jaworski. And being a Baylor girl, I know we had Jaworski Law Firm in Waco. So I look forward to hearing from him. And thank you all. Keep safe. Keep up the great work.
Off that. Late.
Thank you, Tammie. I just want to say that it is an absolute honor and I am proud to serve with you on the SDEC for Senate District 22. Thank you for being my partner there. So whoever is elected as our Attorney General can make a big difference to criminal justice reform, administration of the death penalty, enforcement of civil rights laws, and the interpretation and application of the Freedom of Information and Conflict of Interest laws. In addition, the Attorney General will provide advice to state agencies about regulations such as those govern abortions, licensed adoption, and foster care agencies. The Attorney General also is the people's lawyer who serves as an advocate for consumer matters, protects our investments in charitable organizations and institutions, initiates and oversees prosecution of government fraud and conflicts of interest, and advises the state officials who serve us. Texans love fighters, and that is exactly what Joe Jaworski is. Joe Jaworski is a third-generation Texas trial attorney and former mayor of Galveston, Texas. Joe's term was defined by his unwavering support for and success in rebuilding Galveston's storm-devastated public housing, a political choice that made a positive difference for thousands of island residents, but cost him a second term. His family legacy is one of integrity and ethics. Joe's grandfather, Watergate Special Prosecutor Leon Jaworski, had the guts to take on President Nixon and Nixon's corrupt administration by fighting for justice in our nation's highest court. Leon Jaworski's legacy after Watergate, a family value which Joe honors daily, and no one is above the law. This is why Joe is running for Texas Attorney General. In Texas, too many of our public officials think they are above the law. The tearing down of our institution has led us to lose faith in our democracy. We need someone who can restore integrity to public service in Texas. Someone who chooses right over wrong. Someone who will use our legal system to fight for fairness and justice. That's what Joe has done his entire career as a lawyer and as a mayor. We need an Attorney General with the courage of Joe's grandfather, the courage to stand up to the politically powerful. Joe is prepared to step up to that legacy. Joe will speak with us for a few minutes before we turn the night over to our moderator. So now I have the honor to introduce the next Attorney General of Texas, Joe Jaworski.
Thom, thank you so much. Thom Hanson. And thank you, Gilberto. Thank you, Carla, Tammie, all of you, Senate District 22. This is by far the most well-attended, best organized Democratic Club gathering that we've done on the Joe Jaws Texas Tour 2021. You might say the whole thing has been leading up to this evening, March 10th. You know, I'd like to kind of go back, if you don't mind, to my political awakening. And it was 30 years ago, right as I was preparing to graduate from law school in 1991. My wife and I were married. We were about to finish University of Texas School of Law. You know, it was May 1991, a month left. So I had a little extra time on my hands. And I went shopping for groceries in the middle of the day on a Wednesday at the Fresh Plus at 43rd and Duval. And there she was in produce, Governor Ann Richards. Well, I went up to her to introduce myself because I was a fan. Now think about this. This was 5 months into her term. Governor Richards, hi, I'm Joe Jaworski. I just wanted to meet you. Now, I don't remember the exact contents of the conversation, but it went on for about 10 minutes. But like they say, you always remember how you feel. And I remember I felt validated, I felt optimistic, and above all, I felt hope. There I was, 30 days away from graduating law school. I was going to be a licensed attorney by November. With a progressive government in place, my career was off to a great start with a governor like Ann Richards. I knew my government cared. The future was so bright. And then 1994 and 1998 and on and on and on. George W. Bush, Rick Perry, Greg Abbott. John Cornyn, Greg Abbott, Ken Paxton. I don't feel like my government supports me. I feel like my government is a predatory government that is more interested in a culture war prosecution than making sure the lights stay on in frigid weather. I actually had a friend of mine call me because his wife died in his arms in Galveston, Texas, because the electricity was cut off and she died of hypothermia. Now, if that doesn't cause you to become angry, then we're not listening, but we are listening and we care about each other, and government can make a positive difference in people's lives. But when we have an attorney general who is more interested in fighting a culture war so that he can stay relevant, so that he can stay in office, so that he can have a chit to offer when the indictment leads to a plea deal, that's when you know it's time for change. Our government is being abused and something must be done about it. I am Joe Jaworski and I'm running to serve as your next Texas Attorney General, and it would be my honor to have your vote and to have your support. Now, Thom, I think you said you wanted me to touch upon a few of my platform items because, like Gilberto said, we could go on all night about how bad Ken Paxton is, and we're past that now. We all know he has to go. And I present myself as a competent, motivated candidate who can do it the old-fashioned way. Since he won't resign, since they won't impeach, we'll just have to vote him out of office, right, Thom? So I have a platform that I think is superior to anything Mr. Paxton can put up or anything the Republican Party, if they choose to replace him in their own primary, can put up. And it goes something like this. As your next Texas Attorney General, I will never embarrass you in the United States Supreme Court. I'll never file frivolous litigation in any court, state or federal. When the Joe Jaworski Texas Attorney General Administration files suit, it will be to protect Texans' consumer rights, not to pull a political stunt. My second point is very simple. As Attorney General, I'll support the Affordable Care Act, period. Big difference between me and Mr. Paxton. And what that means practically is we'll be able to draw down $5.6 billion in Medicaid every year. That's a lot of money for a lot of health insurance for a lot of men, women, and children. It'll also help sustain our vital network of rural hospitals where everyone west of I-35 gets their health care. I also think that if you're running for a constitutional statewide executive office, you have the opportunity to be a walking human referendum on any number of issues, even if you're not running for a legislative seat. Attorney General John Hill did it in 1972 with the Deceptive Trade Practice Act. He said, why isn't there a direct consumer action that consumers have where they can go hire a private lawyer and sue businesses for fraud and deceptive practices? And he meant it. And he got elected and he was the first guy in front of the committee testifying. So I want to be the Attorney General that leads an effort to legalize cannabis in the state of Texas. It's time, not only because of the revenue that in a moderate sort of conservative analysis would yield $1.1 billion every legislature, but also because it would offer a palliative, an alternative to opioids for our veterans and our chronic pain sufferers who deserve something that helps finally, that won't kill them, so that Texas can finally fight a winning war on addiction. Well, there's also the social and criminal justice imperative of doing this because so many young lives have been irreparably burdened by the wasteful, petty prosecution of possession of cannabis. More often than not, lives of color. And they go to private prisons. And that is what we spend our government dollars doing. These now are lives that can no longer be productive, that can no longer bear part of the burden of the tax so that we can all live together. And finally, think about the break we will give and the respect we'll show to our police and our county and district prosecutors when we take this wasteful, petty prosecution away off the table. Now they will spend time fighting real crime like domestic abuse, firearm violations, real felonies. This is a game changer, and it's time for Texas to finally take the dive and legalize cannabis. Now, Gilberto was very kind to remind you all that I'm a former mayor, and I absolutely believe this is very important. Local government authority. Just this evening, we've had Ken Paxton in chapter 12 of the vexatious litigant threaten Austin, a home rule city, for following the sage advice of their public health officials. And it doesn't, stop or end there. They've been doing this for a long time. It's like the Republican Party has been hating on our most basic sense of identity, our hometown. I think Texas is a big enough state where you ought to be able to choose where you live, and viva la défense, as they say. You should be able to live in a town that you like, and that you can elect your mayor and county judge and have coffee with them and email them and go to the city council meeting and sound off for 3 minutes at the microphone. You can't do that with Greg Abbott. You can't do that with Ken Paxton. He'll block you on Twitter if he doesn't like what you have to say. So it seems to me that the better approach is let Abilene be Abilene, right? Let Waco be Waco. Let Austin be Austin, and on and on and on. Let Brownsville be Brownsville. Let Galveston be Galveston. And finally, Thom, Ken Paxton makes much of his voter fraud division. I mean, he's proud of it. He likes to tell you that there's fraud in the vote and that he's out prosecuting a number of people. Well, let me say this. It's not rampant at all. He's spent millions of dollars for a handful of prosecutions, mainly based on people getting an incorrect address on a document. But when I'm elected, I'm going to take that voter fraud division and I'm going to turn it into the Joe Jaworski voter access division, because somebody ought to make sure that all Texans have the right to vote. The men and women that are standing in line at 7 p.m., however long it takes for that line to finally be discharged, will get to vote. If you have signed your name on an application to vote by mail and then you send in your ballot, if the signatures aren't exactly perfect, someone needs to be there to make sure that that vote gets counted. I mean, just think about how your signature is on those little electronic pads at the grocery store. That works. I could go on and on. But what I know is that whatever fraud there may be, and there must be, just like there's people that speed on the interstate and there's shoplifters, crime does happen. I'm not going to deny it. But is it so widespread as to cause the integrity of an election to be questioned? Absolutely not. But there's one thing I know. Whatever fraud may exist, the best way to defeat it is to dilute it with more legal voting. And so I support the John Lewis H.R. 1 Act, and I support the state of Texas making it easier for all Texans to vote. Well, that's my platform, and I'm happy to answer questions, Thom, in this outstanding town hall forum.
Thank you very much there, Joe. I appreciate that. And it's great hearing you talk to us this evening. So I'm going to introduce our moderator. Our moderator for the evening is one of the most remarkable women I know. She is a great champion for women's rights, healthcare, voters' rights, and much more. She is a 6th-generation Texan from McLennan County. She received a bachelor's degree in accounting and finance at the Texas A&M and a master's in national security terrorism from American Military University. She retired from the corporate world in 2009 and returned back to the family farm in Waco, where she now works as a freelance business consultant and a local progressive activist. It is with great pleasure to introduce our friend, Cheryl Foster.
Thank you, Thom. Okay, let's have some fun. Okay, let's just get this baseline question out there. Are you currently under indictment and/or federal investigation?
Thankfully, no, and do not expect to be in my natural life.
Okay, I'm sold. We'll ask a little bit. We have a lot more questions, but we've got to set some baselines, you know. I did have a little bit more question about your background. The Attorney
Sure.
General Office oversees a division of over 4,000 employees, 38 divisions, 117 offices around Texas, 750 attorneys, God help you, and a budget of almost $600 million a year. What has prepared you to run such a large organization?
Cheryl, first off, I am a mature attorney, 59 years old. I'll be 60 on the date of the Texas primary, March 1st, 2022. As mayor of Galveston in 2010 and 2012, the normal annual budget of the city was 50, 60 million. But in my capacity as mayor, I had the honor of discharging the obligations that HUD put on Galveston, thankfully, with a $900 million budget. And this required great, extensive cooperation with our city managers and with the federal government, and understanding the law. And, you know, it was an unusual budget, to say the least. I don't know that any mayor has had the opportunity to work with such large numbers. I will give great kudos to my mentor, who's no longer with us, Lyda Ann Thomas, the mayor that preceded me for 6 years. She's the one who, during that golden era that gave us the Affordable Care Act, walked the halls of Congress with Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid, because our Congressman Ron Paul would not help us because he did not believe in disaster funding. That sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? And it was thanks to her leadership that Galveston received that bounty so that we could rebuild our community. And it was my honor to be the first mayor elected after the storm and discharging that budget.
Okay, great. I want to set some other context around what you're running for and some of the questions we have. Attorney General is one of those omnipotent agencies that just touches everything. And I'm not quite sure where some of the touch points are outside of the agency. Could you explain what is the relationship between the Attorney General and the Lieutenant Governor?
Sure. I mean, what's important to remember, Cheryl, good point, which is, you know, we have, in terms of all the 50 states, we have a weak governor, believe it or not, even though.
That's why I didn't ask about him.
Well, exactly. And we have a part-time legislature, you know, and even though the lieutenant governor is obviously, you know, in office, you know, like all the elected officials are, but still it's a part-time legislature. But the Attorney General is 24/7, 365 days a year. What I would say is I am not the lieutenant governor's lawyer. I am the people of Texas's lawyer. And, you know, I think Jim Maddox used to say he's the people's lawyer. And, you know, I understood that. I get that. The Attorney General has several divisions, but when you look at the Texas Constitution, it says essentially that you are to defend the state when sued in court. And of course, I think implicit in that is that you can initiate litigation as well. So you have incredibly wide discretion. And obviously it's being abused now with the office holder. But imagine a attorney general who actually would favor civil rights and voting rights and human rights, consumer rights, instead of virtue signaling and culture wars, because that's what we're getting now, and we're paying dearly for it.
Okay. How about relationships to the Texas Ethics Commission and or the Austin Ethics Commission, which gets involved in a lot of that state politics as well?
What an interesting question. So, you know, Ken Paxton is supposed to defend the Texas Ethics Commission when it gets sued, like when it did when Michael Quinn Sullivan, Ken Paxton's good friend and the executive director of one of his great funding sources, sued the Ethics Commission, not just for a technicality, but to actually find it unconstitutional. I mean, that's like the death blow. But Ken Paxton decided he didn't want to take that case. And so the Texas Ethics Commission had to hire David Beck's firm, great firm, at a really expensive hourly rate. I mean, how did you get away with that? At Austin Ethics Commission, he should have nothing to do with that. That is not within his purview.
Okay. I know sometimes they go after politicians that do stupid things because they live in Austin. Are you willing to aggressively defend state statutes and policies, even if you disagree with them?
Well, I love the interplay of that. Clearly, the Texas Constitution uses the word shall, but when I say shall, I mean, you know, it makes it clear that you shall defend the state. So for example, if there was a law passed and then the ACLU or LULAC were to sue, it is the Texas Attorney General's job to defend that lawsuit. But let's remember what the Texas Attorney General is. A Texas lawyer bound by the same rules that I've practiced over the last 31 years. the Texas Rules of Disciplinary Procedure and Conduct. And it's very clear that one of the most important rules is that of representation. And it provides very clearly in Rule 303 that meritorious claims and contentions, a lawyer shall not bring or defend a proceeding or assert or controvert an issue therein unless the lawyer reasonably believes that there is a basis for doing so that is not frivolous, period.
Okay.
So in fact, there is something to be said for the discretion of the attorney. If you do not believe that the position you're asked to defend is in good faith, you have an obligation to say so and desist. If I were to find something unconstitutional and the Texas legislature passed it, I am not obligated to defend that.
Okay, fair. I have a lot of questions about the criminal justice system from various points coming in at it. So first, the relationship to the criminal justice system and how the Attorney General fits into that puzzle. Do you believe we should reduce our current incarceration rate? If you have any input into that, and we'll go on from there. So if you want to give a statement quickly about criminal justice, and then I'll tackle it from a couple of different perspectives.
Well, sure, Cheryl. And certainly the Attorney General has to, be a litigator, or, certainly appoint competent staff to litigate both pro and con, but you're still also a counselor. I mean, the Attorney General is obviously the great opinion section, provides advice to anyone who asks if they're on the designated list of those who can ask, but still you're a counselor. I mean, you're like a general counsel in many regards. And if you feel like, for example, the Texas Department of Criminal Justice or, the penitentiaries, like when William Wayne Justice gave that sweeping opinion, John Hill was Attorney General there, he had to negotiate that and help instill change within the prison system. Then you're expected to do that as a counselor, as the attorney. But to answer your question directly, I am vehemently opposed to the notion of private prisons. Just, I can't imagine how that was ever allowed to happen. Why not spend that money on rehabilitation or mental health or ways to keep people from being incarcerated? If you can't support incarceration, the notion of incarceration and rehabilitation with the public levy, and you have to go to some for-profit business, I mean, that is hypocritical and outrageous. So number one, I believe private prisons should be redlined out. And two, I would say that marijuana conviction and incarceration, if that's all you've done, as long as there's not a gun crime or some other violent crime attendant to it, then if we pass cannabis reform, then your record should be expunged and you should be released.
Okay.
Thereby freeing prison space for real violent criminals, real felons.
Got it. How would you, or how can the Attorney General's office help victims and even the definition of a victim, and folks with mental health issues, minors, disabled folks, veterans? How can the Attorney General help them gain access, gain effective and credible access into the criminal justice system, and then support them once they're in the system to get justice?
It really is a local operation, the question of prosecuting criminals. The Attorney General does not have original jurisdiction to prosecute anyone, but you can be invited to prosecute if you can refer charges to a local district or county attorney, and if they choose not to pursue it, then the Attorney General can use his or her staff to initiate a proceeding in a state court. The Attorney General can also assign special assistants to the U.S. Attorney's offices. They call it a SAUSA, Special Assistant U.S. Attorney. And you can, as Attorney General, create divisions that reflect the priority of your agenda. So, you know, if one wanted to, you could have a civil rights division, a voting access division. Mr. Paxton makes a big deal about his human trafficking. Well, that's good. I mean, there should be an emphasis on fighting human trafficking because we know that there's a lot of exposure there on the border and in the urban cities in our state and really all across America. So I'm glad he's doing that. But on further inspection, what you really find out is that it's a U.S. attorney role because it's a federal sort of jurisdiction. And the only thing that really you can do as Texas Attorney General is assist in that investigation and prosecution. So I don't know that he's really doing anything other than assisting, but we could do more. On criminal justice, I would simply say you could make that a priority. And I think the real hidden gem there in what you said is mental health. We can reduce the number of inmates incarcerated by legalizing cannabis. We can also create an emphasis on mental health treatment. If we would just simply draw down that Medicaid 5.6 billion, and if we had an emphasis on mental health, what if you had an attorney general that actually took it to the for-profit private insurance companies and made them play fair according to the Mental Health Parity Act, which is not happening now. So it could just, to answer your question, it could be a full-on sort of scope of saying mental health is an issue. Why don't we take those people out of the prison system who would benefit from being in a hospital bed?
Great. One other question on criminal justice, and that's for the folks who've already been in the system. They come out and they've got a lot of barriers based on their criminal records. Is there anything that the Attorney General's office could do to help eliminate some of those barriers? You talked about expunging the records for marijuana convictions, but maybe some help in safe housing, education, anything else that the
Sure.
Attorney General can do for convicted felons.
Right, and I think so much of that is a legislative question.
Right.
But what I can say is, you know, as I've said in the past, an attorney general can also be a thought leader on a statewide issue, and certainly reducing the number of inmates, creating more of a line toward rehabilitation that doesn't necessarily have to be incarceration. But I also think voting rights, it's very important. I think that when I think about one of the prejudices that seem to attach once you leave prison is, are you really free and clear to vote? It's very unclear. And that would have to be one of those important lines of information that we would want, you know, people who have served their time to know that they're allowed to vote. Oftentimes it is the fines that they've yet to pay that are the trick question. And well, you know, you still have some fines that you haven't paid, or there's fines that you never addressed, and so therefore you're not eligible to vote. So that if you were to try to vote, you might find yourself in prison again. That whole thing can be cleared up. And even though that doesn't necessarily address like getting a job, because we know having to tell your record to certain employers may be a turnoff. I think that if we can allow the vote and make it very clear that once you've done your time in prison, you're allowed to vote, that makes a difference.
Great. All right, let's move on to some other issues. We got a few questions on support for the most vulnerable Texans out here. Seniors specifically, what can you do to help protect seniors against nursing home abuse and lock in some good quality of care for those folks?
Yeah. So that's great. And I think of seniors and children together. They're vulnerable. You know, those of us that are, you know, in the prime of our lives, you know, we're able to defend ourselves and reason and argue and controvert, but children who are minors can't. And often the elderly, after a certain age, they're just not capable of it physically and mentally. And so it requires society to be good to them. I think an attorney general can investigate nursing homes. They're usually for profit, okay? And you know, sometimes when people are cutting corners, people get injured and lives are lost. Attorneys general can investigate that with a civil investigative demand, CID. I also think that if you wanted to, there could be a division. The legislature could create it, or it could just be an initiative that a particular attorney general could pursue, which is those that are the most vulnerable. If there's a human trafficking division, for example, there could be an elder abuse division. It could also fall under the rubric of consumer protection. You know, how many times have you worried that your grandmother is telling you about this great deal that she learned about on the telephone? And sometimes the worst scam is your grandson is in New York. He's had a horrible car accident and he just needs $1,000 to get his car because he's been, I mean, I know stories about this. And so phone scams, robocall scams, and then it could also be under the rubric again of keeping insurance to account. Sometimes if healthcare is not delivered in a fair fashion pursuant to people's Medicare status or their health insurance status, I would think an attorney general who wants to be aggressive about it could make a difference in their lives.
Okay. Going on to children, you talked a little bit about child support. What more can the attorney general do to help those kids in foster care and child support, the whole child support system?
Sure. I mean,
And
those are two.
What's the status of it now? I'm not sure what the status of it now is, but I know foster kids are in trouble.
They really are. And the federal judge in Corpus Christi, Janice Jack, has taken a very aggressive approach and is holding the state of Texas to account. A board that I serve on, Texas Appleseed, one of the finest nonprofit boards in the state of Texas, makes a difference. They were involved in the public housing rebuild in Galveston when I was mayor, and they are the federal monitor. Deborah Fowler is a tireless advocate, and she is the federal monitor appointed by the federal judge, the court in Corpus Christi, to review the reports of abuse and death in the children's foster care system. I mean, this has been a problem since John Hill was Attorney General. And so, where is Ken Paxton in his advice? Where is he in promulgating that change? In the child support division, very different, but related. This is something that I need more education on. This is going to be my first time to let you know that this is a work in progress. I've done a few pro bono divorces. I am a child of divorce. My parents divorced. So, I understand what happens when the family unit disintegrates. And there needs to be, that is probably the greatest source of effort that, believe it or not, the Texas Attorney General's office as an office is involved in. There's over 4,000 employees, maybe 750 to 800 are attorneys, which means, like 80% are not lawyers. Well, what do you think they're doing? A lot of them are in the child support division because that is something that is in all 254 of Texas counties. And so I hear from husbands and advocates for husbands who think they're being treated poorly. I hear in my email and social media from mothers who are being left with their, children unattended because they can't seem to collect because the spouse or ex-spouse or the husband or the father of the child has left and gone to another state, and they're not getting the support from the Texas Attorney General's office that they need to make the connection to the other state or the other country. So believe it or not, that is something that is probably going to require a full-on review on efficiencies. So all the money that Ken Paxton is spending defending his office in a whistleblower or ceding the amount of money that could come from the Google lawsuit because he fired the salaried attorney who was going to handle Google, and now we have to pay 40%. Again, no complaint about the quality of the law firms. Ken Paxton is hiring good lawyers for the state. My only complaint is that we're having to pay for it due to his poor decision. But if you could use that money to revamp the child support division and improve it, then I think we'd be talking. It's just like the Texas Ethics Commission. They were supposed to have all this new software and all that, but they had to put that on hold because Ken Paxton wouldn't defend them, and they had to hire a private lawyer. And so there goes the budget. Right. Just amazing.
Yeah. There's a few other vulnerable groups, sexual assault victims, domestic violence violence victims, hate crimes, internet crimes. Um, any opportunity there for the Attorney General to make some positive gains in some of those other vulnerable groups? And I will add, in that vulnerable group, whistleblowers in the Attorney General's office.
Well, Cheryl, you're absolutely right. I mean, what this goes to is a more wholesale view of government. I mean, what if the vulnerable were listened to and supported by their government? It seems to me that the Republican leadership has made their decision long ago, and that is, hey, we don't tax in this state, and we give business whatever they want because they'll be kind enough to employ our people. And so, whatever you want, tort reform, you got it. Tax rebates, you got it. What can we do to help you? And you know, to an extent, that's all good because we want to be a prosperous state. We want to be employed. I'm all for that. But where's the other side of the coin? Are you hurt? Let's fund your health care. Let's draw down what we need so that we can have mental health beds in all cities. You know, it's not getting easier to live, guys, you know, and government is way behind on meeting the needs of society currently. And I think that what you're going to see when the Democrats, in whole or in part, are finally restored to positions of statewide authority, you're going to see finally a real discussion on the needs of all Texans.
Great. We talked a couple of times about focus of the Attorney General's office. So what's the biggest threat to Texans right now? Is it federal government or is it Planned Parenthood?
Yeah, neither. You know,
Not according to Ken Paxton.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you know, I mean, the real threat right now is violence, whether it's the cartel or white supremacy groups or, you know, any violent group of any color, whoever it may be. And you know, there's enough blame to go around. But what we need is to know that we're safe and that the police are competent and wanting to work. I mean, I was a mayor of Galveston and I loved our police. I loved our firemen and women. And, you know, public security, public safety is one of those just baseline items that government is responsible for. We need to know that if we're going for a walk in our neighborhood with our dog or our children, we're safe. And, you know, it's starting to feel a little on edge out there. Little did we know that the electricity wouldn't work for sometimes 40 hours or more. And people died because of it. And people's properties were damaged and they're still not living there. I mean, you know, the water doesn't work. And, you know, the water's still off at my house in Galveston because we can't get the parts because there's such a run on it. So, you know, is the federal government the bad guy? Is Planned Parenthood the bad guy? No.
Yeah. Anything you'd like to say about reproductive rights?
Sure. I do not believe that a woman's womb is a utility of the state. I mean, is that clear enough?
Yeah.
You know, Cheryl, I got to tell you, the whole debate is off, you know, and it's skewed, and you know, nobody wants to have an abortion. Okay, there's not anyone who said I'm waking up today and looking forward to it. That's just ridiculous. So what we ought to do is have education. We ought to have contraception. We ought to have family planning, and we ought to thank Planned Parenthood for the great strides, especially in underserved communities, that they have made in women's reproductive health. It is always the women who get the poor end of the deal. And I know that you've had it up to here with the
I'm way up here.
way up here.
Way up there. Yeah,
With
keep
the
going
hypocrisy, with the hypocrisy typically of a male-dominated legislature telling you what's best for you. And
Yep.
we're just not listening. And as a mediator, I think that's a bad thing.
Yeah. We talked about, specifically talked about violence being a big threat to Texans. What could you do to help improve our efforts in preventing gun violence and maybe putting in some common sense gun
Sure.
and stemming the flow of illegal guns into communities.
Well, we're a gun state, and I like shooting guns. I don't own any, but maybe I will one day. I like to borrow guns from my friends and go shooting, and I'm actually pretty good on target practice, but also on skeet and clay pigeons. But I'd rather play drums, to be honest with you. It's just my particular hobby, but I do respect that there are people who are avid gun collectors, whether it's a hobby or a sense of promoting security, or just a way to say, hey, this is how I want to spend my money. Well, what I would say is this: there is a violent side to guns, and whenever mass murder happens, or accidental shooting, whether it's intentional or it's negligent, loss of life is too precious, and I never want that to happen to anyone. What I would say is this: this is one of those culture war debates. I understand the Second Amendment, and it's written in like late 18th century language. It's not how we'd write it now if we were writing the Constitution. So we all have to interpret it and genuflect to our Supreme Court to find out what it really means. But I think we all don't need to really worry too much about interpretation. We want guns to be safe, and we want people to enjoy their gun rights. The NRA used to train people very well, and it was just a very happy medium. Everyone learned how to handle their guns safely, and it was no big deal. Now it's like this big, you are not taking my guns away, damn it. And how did we get there? Well, what I'd say is this: if I've learned one thing from mediation, it is that when people feel like on both sides of the issue that this isn't going to work out, I can already tell you there's not going to be a deal. I tell them, hey, tranquilo, baby, relax. Let's take this one step at a time. And usually that calms everyone down, and we make progress one step at a time until we have a resolution. So taking a page out of that book, what I'd say is, can we agree on one thing in terms of gun rights? Can we get one thing for safety for our people without anyone feeling like they're taking our guns away? And I think it would be this: background checks. Can't we all agree that we don't want felons or domestic abusers owning guns? That's a disqualification. I think that's fair.
Yep. So we talked a little bit about consumer protection, and how you would go to bat for the consumers of Texas. Anything, what do you think should be the next steps against or with ERCOT and the Public Utility Commission today, last week?
Right. It's so shocking. I mean, it's scandalous on the level. For those of you who were aware back then, many of us were. I mean, I was a kid, but I know what it's about. Sharpstown, it has that level, that resonance where throw them out. Because what we now know is that in 2011, there was a similar cold snap. We were all there. There was a report published that was a step-by-step guideline as to how to weatherize our equipment, and it was simply ignored. And there was a decision made: hey, we're not going to require anyone to do this. Again, this obsession with low regulation government has led to loss of life and great loss of property. So this time, I think, before even the 2022 election, we'll know whether these people that are in charge now are going to take a serious stab at this. And, I was there in '99 when they deregulated the electrical markets. And, sometimes things don't become apparent right away. And now we know, some 21 years later, the great cost of that decision. So right now, even Mr. Paxton, I think, has filed a couple of civil investigative demands, some discovery, basically to find out what's going on with some of these companies. And he's made the effort to sue, I think, Gritty, and which I'm sure will be bankrupt soon because of this.
Well, they're a California company, so.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
Yeah. That must be it. But I think that the larger question is, what's the institutional change? I mean,
Right.
now that we've had a couple people resign or a couple people fired, what's the institutional change to make sure this never happens again? The Attorney General should be looking at this from a consumer protection. Furthermore, this deal where you're going to get a bill for $16,000, I mean, that's just pure gouging.
Yeah. All right. So let's jump over to a completely different topic. Where do you stand on border security, family separations, DACA, the whole immigration story. It's a big one.
Okay. Yep.
Narrow that down.
Right. So I'm a big fan of DACA. Okay. You know, I'm going to speak from the heart on this rather than from the head. But honestly, you know, it takes a clear analysis to finally get these things right. But, you know, Texas and Mexico have been brothers, sisters, whatever you want to call it, since our inception. And I think that Latin America, Central America, South America, you know, the farther south you go, this becomes dicey. People feel like their piece of the pie is at risk by immigrants coming in. You know, I believe the Texas and the American experience is defined by immigrants. We were all immigrants at one time, except for those that were perhaps born right here before history was recorded. So look, anyone who's got a good heart, willing to work, willing to integrate and adapt in society as diverse as it is, I think should be welcomed. Now, look, that's not, you know, a technical answer, but you know what I'm talking about. The men, the women, and children that are just dying to share freedom, the word that we keep hearing, you know, and that they want to be part of a rational, safe society and they want to contribute. They should be allowed within the context of the law to become Americans. Now, DACA, absolutely, I support that law. Border security, we have to have a secure border. And, you know, I'm alarmed at the human suffering immediately south of our border. And I'm proud of the Americans, some attorneys I know in Brownsville and Sister Norma Pimentel who minister to these people. It's a great testament to American faith and love of the human condition. But I don't get a whole lot of thrill listening to the finger pointing and the anger involving this immigration debate. It is the great failing of government that this question hasn't been resolved yet. And, you know, Ken Paxton threatening to sue without offering a solution himself just shows that he's just being hysterical and doing it for political stunt rather than trying to offer a solution. He's not being a lawyer, he's being a politician. And that offends me.
Great. Yeah, me too. I've got just a couple more questions. Another big one, discrimination. How can the Attorney General help end discrimination in Texas, religious beliefs, and how that all plays into the dialogue there?
Sure.
Give us some 2 cents worth on that.
So there's not a civil rights division in the Texas Attorney General's office, and that's intentional, trust me. There's civil rights divisions in other states' Attorney General's office. So it's just a decision. It's just a choice, a preference. And I'll tell you, I commit to there being a civil rights division in my administration at the Texas Attorney General's office. And this could address everything from fair lending to fair housing to, you know, the Defense of Marriage Act, support for, you know, business communities, addressing hate crimes, disabilities, and the, you know, American Disabilities Act, Americans with Disabilities Act. It's a constitutional question, isn't it? And a legislative one, and it needs to be a priority. So that is my answer there.
Okay. You already mentioned you oppose the death penalty, correct? Or does the Attorney General have say in that, or is it just the governor?
Let me say this. Well, the governor can pardon,
Right.
but I mean, I think the death penalty is a legislative decision. I mean, if
Okay.
the legislature wanted to do away with the death penalty in Texas, they could do that. I mean, they've made it impossible to institute a state income tax, you know, but if they wanted to just vote on the death penalty, they could do it by, I think, a simple majority vote. Now, look, it's not my big passion to undo the death penalty, but what I can tell you is, I mean, I'm agnostic on it. I understand it's there. I understand people have been killed who were innocent or they were threatened, and that is enough for me to not be a fan of the death penalty. with permission, I would simply say that is not something that I'm going to campaign on at the moment. But what I can promise you is if the legislature decides it's time for it to go, I won't stop them.
Okay.
If it's time for Texas to let go of the death penalty, I will not stop them.
Awesome. Let's talk about voting, and let's set a baseline right off the front. Who won the presidential election in November 2020?
Why, that would be Joseph Biden and Kamala Harris.
Okay, thank you. All right. Will you work with the FBI to go after the insurrectionists?
Yes, if there's people in Texas, then
honey, they live down the road from me.
That's right.
Yes.
No, I mean, and I know there are, and so that is something where there needs to be consequences. You can't do that, and we turn a blind eye. No.
No, thank you. You already talked about your platform number 5 was turning the voter fraud unit into the voter access unit. But what can you do to help make the Electoral College more fair for Texans, all Texans, not just Republican Texans?
Well, I mean, again, the question of electoral votes going in whole, that is, how many do we have now? 36? Something.
I know it's a legislative thing, but I don't know where the Attorney General would fit into that equation.
Well, I mean, just by letting more people vote. I mean, finding, a legal, encouraging people to vote. I got to tell you something. I know what you're asking. And I think, whether you're for the Electoral College or not, that kind of goes beyond what an Attorney General can do. I mean, unless you want to file a lawsuit saying the Electoral College, which, clearly is written in the Constitution, is unconstitutional. So that would be frivolous. But the Electoral College, exists for a reason. And, if you want to change it, that'll take a constitutional amendment on the federal side. But, what I would say is, I just say, go back to the question of how can we make voting legal, fun, omnipresent? I want every 18-year-old to think, oh boy, here's my first election. In fact, I've got a campaign volunteer who is 17, and she is leading my effort on high school voting, those that will be 18, either for the primary or the general election. I mean, what a great thing to inspire our young Americans. I mean, that's one of the hidden reasons. It's not so hidden, actually, Cheryl, that I'm running, is because the behavior of our state leaders is not normal. And I don't want young Americans or young Texans to think it's normal. Someone has to run and remind these folks that there is something called public service, selfless servant leadership, where you don't do it for a career and you don't do it to screw the other guy. You do it to help people. And that's what government's all about. And that's what 18-year-olds need to hear so that they'll go vote their future.
Great. That gets me to my last question. I had some questions about your campaign. First of all, who is your top donor, and will you use the AG's office to bail him out?
That's great. Actually, none of my donors are going to need that kind of help. But the good news is I have put all my donors, and I've got everything from $1 donations to $10,000 donations. And the $10,000 donations, just so you know, were from really good friends of mine who love me, and they have done well, including my mother.
We just wanted to talk about your campaign. How are you going to assure voters that you're going to work for everyone? I think your answers to a lot of these questions do that. How are you going to work to get the vote out in rural counties? I mean, you're talking to a lot of them right now, but
Amen.
What else are you going to do for rural to talk and get your vote out and your message out to rural counties?
Number one, not ignore them. Okay. And number two, not just say, hey, I visited the county seat. See ya. I mean, let's be friends. Let's get together. Now, there's only so many places one human can be at any given time, but let's be honest. As tragic as COVID is, it has yielded some changes of behavior that allow for opportunities. I mean, call it making lemonade out of lemons. One of those is Zoom culture. So instead of me driving around in a little white truck, with the gas card, which actually would be kind of fun up to a point, we can be on Facebook, we can be on Zoom, we can use our technology to meet, and we're doing this. Let's don't let this be the first or the last time. It may be the first, but let's make sure there's a second, a third, and onward. So we have looked, just so you know, our campaign has looked at about the top 40 populated rural counties, just arbitrarily to cut it off there. We intend to promote a message that has at least 2 or 3 points. Number one, cannabis, cash crop, okay? Broadband access. Now look, I'll give Abbott and the legislature credit from 2 years ago because they appointed a commission that just recently, last November, published a roadmap on how to make broadband more available west of I-35 and in rural counties. I hope that it is followed, although I have my concerns because we know what happened 10 years ago when they came up with the winter weatherization report, ignored. But I'm telling you that broadband is something very important. It reminds me sort of LBJ's, rural electrification efforts in the 20s. What we know is that telehealth, remote learning for students, and a lot of agricultural equipment has a signal that needs to be uploaded. All of these things help rural Texas sustain and benefit. And then I think also, voting, that matters as well. And my local authority question, that is, there are several Texases. There's not just one size that fits all. And so, what I'd say is it may be Austin today, but Abilene, watch out. Or, Tom Green County, watch out because they're coming for you next. There needs to be an exclamation point where we say Texas, whether it's rural or urban, or whether it's, coastal Bend and Gulf Coast, or whether it's the, East Texas Piney Woods, whether it's the Rio Grande Valley, whether it's the beautiful Fort Davis area, there's different needs and we need to be mindful of it and we need to support it.
Okay. That was the end of my questions. I just want to make everybody aware, November 2022 is your election for State Attorney General. It's Jaworski for Texas.com. Callie Brown is still your campaign coordinator. Is that true?
She is, Callie Brown, okay. Absolutely.
And do you have anything that I didn't ask about that you want to tell us about?
Well, simply this, that I do respect the family legacy, and it's meaningful. It's not the most important reason to vote, but I do respect the fact that there was a time when leaders, whether they were elected or simply appointed or just good examples of leadership, that they walked the earth. And I know that there's more than just me, but right now in elective office, it's kind of hard to find them. Leon Jaworski, my grandfather, did express the way I think Texas lawyers should operate. Probably the most telling is when he wrote his memoir following his time as Watergate prosecutor. They said, "Oh, Mr. Jaworski, here's your publishing bonus. Here's your retainer for having written the book." And he said, "I can't possibly accept that. I can't be seen as profiting off my public service." So he was encouraged to divert that money to a foundation, the Leon Jaworski Foundation, which I serve as vice chair of. He never took a penny of it, but it went to benefit Baylor, where a scholarship was put in his name at Baylor Law School. It goes to benefit the medical center. It goes to benefit the arts, and it goes to benefit, charitable issues in Texas. And it's that kind of selfless sort of leadership that we are screaming in need of now. I would like to set an example. I would like to lead by example. And as your Attorney General, the most important office in my view, because it holds the key to the box where the rule of law should safely rest and be preserved. But when you have an Attorney General who's an activist and who is acting out of self-preservation, who has criminal exposure and is desperate, frankly, because his funding is drying up, this is where people get hurt. And if he won't resign, and if they won't impeach him, then it is up to each of us, all the Texans, even Republican voters, to do this the old-fashioned way, and that is vote him out of office. That is why I'm running. I am presenting an alternative. You don't have to worry about what my ulterior motive is. I'm doing it for the state of Texas.
Great. Thank you. Thom.
Wow,
Thank you so
very
much.
Yes, thank you very much. We appreciate that, Joe. And thank you, Cheryl. You always do such a wonderful job. I greatly appreciate it. And as Cheryl said, make sure you check out Joe's website and his Facebook page. His website is jaworskifortexas.com. Go on there, sign up to volunteer, make a donation for his campaign, whatever you feel you need to do. But I want to thank you, Joe, for stepping up and taking the challenge to become our next Attorney General. I want to thank our guest speakers, Chairman Hinojosa, Dr. Brailey, and Tammie Hartgroves for speaking with us and for your unwavering dedication to the Democratic Party. A special thank you to our moderator, Cheryl Foster. You are an inspiration to us all. Thanks to everyone who attended and or watch the event on Facebook. I want a special thank you to the Johnson County Democratic Party for sponsoring this event. Be sure to volunteer with your local Democratic parties and candidates. Be sure to check back with our Facebook page for future events. I want to say real quick, Joe, the last time I checked, we had 430 people that was viewing on Facebook, and we're sure that's going to double, if not triple, by tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to the time we can hug and shake hands together. So you please stay safe and well. And Joe, do you have anything else that you would like to say before we close out?
Well, just to acknowledge the great organization, the great effort, and the great dedication, Thom, that you and your organization and the SDEC and the whole Senate District of 22 has put on this evening. This is an example, a masterpiece of how these should be done. And I'm very proud to have been part of it this evening. Thank you all so much.
Well, thank you. And Tammie, go ahead.
Before you go, Joe, I would like to see if you put it on your calendar, since there is the Jaworski chair at the Baylor Law School, that maybe you have a fundraiser with the attorneys in the Baylor Law School in Waco.
Absolutely. I am close friends with Brad Tobin, the dean of Baylor Law School. He's on the Jaworski Foundation as well, and I'm sure they have requirements that they remain nonpartisan, and also but in Waco, I guarantee you I will be there. And Tammie, I think that there are any number of good friends I know in Waco that would put on an event, and we'll get all the lawyers there and all the people who love good government. That's a phrase we ought to say more. Good government, not selfish government, not little government, but good government. And there's a difference there. There's a way to have good government again.
Well, it's so refreshing to listen to you and not be embarrassed by everything that comes out of our current Attorney General's mouth and everything he does.
Amen. No, he's beyond rehabilitation, I'm afraid. Anyone who had any sense of shame or scruples would have resigned long ago, but not this guy.
Okay. Does anybody else got anything they would like to say to Joe before we close out for the evening?
Is he married and got kids?
The question is just.
Yes. Yeah, actually, I've been married for 31 years to my beautiful wife, Rebecca Hughes, and our son, Lee, is 21, and he's a junior at Boston College, and his deep desire is to come back and attend University of Texas Law School. And then our beautiful daughter, Sasha, is 16. She'll be 17. She's in high school, and she'll be 17 in June.
Wonderful. So, all right. Well, if there's no more questions or comments for Joe, we're going to go ahead and close up for the evening. Tammie, I see you waving your hands again. Are you just saying?
I'm saying good night. Good
just
night.
saying good night. So, everybody, thank you very much for it. I appreciate it. You all have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Proud to be with you.
Thank you.